Good evening. I call to order this meeting of the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners. Welcome. We're happy to have all of you watching with us tonight. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Police Captain John Slaughter.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for filling in for us tonight. Our invocation from the Wendell Council of Churches, we're going to hear from Pastor Wallace Johnson of the Wendell United Methodist Church. Are you with us, Wallace?
Hey, McGray, right here. Can you hear me all right?
I can.
All right. Thanks for letting me call in. Glad to be a part of it virtually. One day we'll get back to normal. Let's pray, everyone. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for the day today and in all things and all places, for the ways that you are leading and guiding and inspiring and calling us into new and bright and amazing places, even here in little Wendell. I ask your prayer of blessing over our Mayor Gray and all commissioners, that they would lead us in the place and the ways that you would have us go. Especially this Mother's Day weekend, we give thanks for all of the mothers in our community that help make this place such a beautiful and amazing place to live. Guide our meeting tonight and lead us well through your Son, Jesus. It gives us freedom to meet in this way. Amen.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being with us.
Sure. Have a good meeting.
Thank you. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
All right, we have a motion to approve the agenda. Commissioner Joyner?
Aye.
Commissioner Lutz?
Aye.
Commissioner Tarnaski?
Aye.
Commissioner Deloach?
Aye.
And Commissioner Boyette?
Aye.
All right, let's move on to our public comment period. The public comment process has been provided in advance of the meeting tonight. The public had the opportunity to submit their written comments to the town clerk, or were able to submit a request to participate via calling in the conference by emailing their name, address, and phone number to the clerk by this past Friday, May 7th. And as always, they always have 3 minutes to speak, so it's just as close as it can be to normal. And unfortunately, we have no one signed up. Please don't think you can't sign up and talk to us. We'd love to hear from you. So you have that opportunity either by email or by calling in, and the clerk can help you with that. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Madam Mayor, if I can make a comment on the consent agenda, and I'll make a motion to approve it.
Sure.
We'd just like to applaud staff for item 3C in the consent agenda, which adds 457 plans. Certainly, there's a variety of pension options out there, but for local government employees, the variety is not always as broad as others. The 457 plan is certainly a good option for our staff. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All right, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion of the motion? All right, Commissioner Joyner?
Aye.
Commissioner Lutz?
Aye.
Commissioner Tarnaski?
Aye.
Commissioner Deloach?
Aye.
And Commissioner Boyette?
Aye.
All right, that passes unanimously. We're going to move into section number 4, recognitions, reports, and presentations. And the first, item 4A, is the proclamation proclaiming National Public Works Week 2021. Let me find that. We have a fantastic public works staff here in Wendell, and they are, they shouldn't be, because we work very hard to have processes in place where everybody knows what their responsibility is, and everybody, if this, then that, if this and that, they know what they're supposed to take care of. But like all things in life, the Public Works Department is all of our Plan B, and you are, and we lean on y'all for a lot of little things and y'all always take care of it with enthusiasm and a smile, and we really appreciate it. So our Public Works Director, Brian Bray, is in here tonight with us. So we have a proclamation proclaiming May 16th through 22nd, 2021 as National Public Works Week in the town of Wendell. So whereas public works services provided in our community are an integral part of the citizens' everyday lives, and whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs such as streets, public buildings, grounds, parks, solid waste collection, and snow removal. And whereas the health, safety, and comfort of this community greatly depends on these facilities and services. Whereas the quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, and construction, are vitally dependent on their efforts and the skill of public works employees. And whereas the efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is materially influenced by the community's understanding of the work they perform. Now, therefore, I, Virginia Gray, Mayor of the town of Wendell, North Carolina, do hereby designate the week of May 16th through 22nd, 2021 as National Public Works Week, and further extend appreciation to our Public Works Department for the vital service they perform and their exemplary dedication to our community. Duly proclaimed this the 10th day of May, 2021, and it's signed by me. And thank you again. We can't thank you enough. Honestly, the town looks beautiful, and I never pass the public works guys without a big wave and a smile, and they're always happy and enthusiastic, and I really, really appreciate it. It makes all of our jobs a whole lot easier. So thank you for everything that you do, and I guess this is for y'all.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. On behalf of the Public Works Department, I definitely want to thank you for the recognition from you and the board.
Welcome. You're very welcome. You're welcome. Item 4B is a proclamation recognizing May 9th through 15th, 2021 as National Police Week and May 15th specifically as Police Officers Memorial Day. You know, I could almost say the very same things I said about the police that I did the public works, because we have great staff here. But I do see y'all a lot, and I see you out doing things, and very kind things, and I'm stopped very often by citizens who tell me that a police officer did something very kind and didn't have to for their child, maybe at church, maybe not even in their official capacity, but how very kind they are, and what wonderful ambassadors you are for our community out in the world and right here. So I want to thank you for that myself. So, let's see, this is a proclamation proclaiming May 9th through 15th, 2021 as National Police Week and May 15th as Police Officers Memorial Day. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and in the week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week, and whereas the members of the law enforcement agency of the Wendell Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of those inside the town of Wendell, and whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and the members of our Wendell Police Department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas all citizens of Wendell should remember and recognize the men and women who serve and protect them, and keep in mind that there are law enforcement officers working in the town every hour of every day to ensure that they remain safe. Now, therefore, on behalf of the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners, I, Virginia Gray, Mayor of the town of Wendell, do recognize the week of May 9th through 15th, 2021 as National Police Week, and further recognize May 15th as Police Officers Memorial Day in honor of those law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice and service to their community or have become disabled in the performance of duty. Duly proclaimed this the 10th day of May, 2021. It's signed by me. So thank you again for all that you do. Please pass our thanks along to everyone in the police department. Thank you very much. And this is, go ahead, you have the floor.
Yeah, I was going to say, we appreciate it on behalf of the police department, and just thank you to you and the board for your continued support.
It's our pleasure. All right, we'll move on into our public hearings. The public comment process was provided in advance of the meeting tonight, and the public had the opportunity to submit their written comments to the town clerk or were able to submit a request to participate via calling in the conference by emailing their name, address, and phone number to the clerk by Friday, May 7th at 5 p.m. We have no one, I believe, signed up to speak tonight. So item 5A, we're going to hear the budget hearing, hold the budget hearing for the proposed fiscal year 2022 budget. Mr. Collins.
Excellent. So tonight you meet your statutory obligation to hold a budget hearing in between the time that the budget officer, your town manager, presents you the recommended budget and a decision. At least 10 days has to pass from the point I provide you that recommended budget before you can make a decision. You have to hold a public hearing in between that. This also which means you'd hold the public hearing tonight and make a decision at your next meeting. That's also consistent with our virtual meeting procedure set by the state government. The budget is balanced and presented to you consistent with the local Budget and Fiscal Control Act, and was provided to the town clerk, the town library, and the media on the same day it was provided to you. It's also available on our website, which I understand is on the front page tonight. But anytime anybody's looking for current or past budget or audit or any kind of finance documents, that can be found in our finance department webpage. That's a good source any time of the year, not just during budget. The total budget presented to you totaled $23,317,452. Transparency right up front, no tax increase proposed this year, so flat 47 cents, same as current fiscal year per $100 of taxable value. That budget can be divided into 4 categories. Capital being the largest item, nearly 60% at $13.7 million. Personnel being a service organization is also a large part of the budget at $5.3 million. Operating at $4.1, and the one without a label there is actually debt service. There's significant efforts. Okay, let me check something real quick. My apologies. Yeah, got an old version of the presentation. I apologize. It's like, this does not look like my presentation.
Do you want us to take a recess?
No, I'm bringing it up right now.
Okay, yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay. Make sure I'm sharing the right one now. All right. Thank you for your patience.
Fine.
So this breaks out The debt is also approximately 1% at $253,000. Again, a flat budget. The fee schedule proposes an increase in the auto decal fee of $10 a year, solid waste fee increase of $3 per month. The fee schedule proposes new fees for stormwater utility of $20 a year and a construction drawing review fee of $700 a year, which is a cost recovery for design review paid by development. The budget document itself, the budget is recognized the past 2 years by the Government Finance Officers Association as a Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. Since it's not broke, we're not fixing the layout from last year. You can see a new cover with a board policy success on the front page of Camp and Row. Improvements to the document are based on GFOA review comments. As previously discussed with the board, there are a number of challenges that we always try and turn to highlights as we work to solve the problems between resources and need of the community. Implementing the streets program that you received, stormwater program, solid waste. Growth has its own impacts on our facility and or organization and community. Capital needs are increasing. Making sure that our operations and personnel costs are structurally balanced, and keeping our challenge on our capital side of the equation. And then looking at vehicle lease versus purchase. For those that weren't aware, there's the street program was established this year. A snapshot of the budget's there, and it's in the line item budgets. It's nearly $1 million budget, well over $750,000 going to maintenance and major repairs to 42 road sections around Wendell just in year one of this budget. All 5 years of the pavement condition survey were included in the 5-year capital plan. This is a significant investment to maintain our streets at a good level during the life of this plan. The plan is evaluated annually, and we'll work to complete as much as we can during a bidding process for the repair and rehabilitation work each year. You also received at your last meeting a fiscal impact report from Withers Ravenel regarding stormwater utility. This is a federally required under the Clean Water Act for any municipality that has a discharge permit, which Wendell has had for a number of years. The state and federal government are auditing those programs, and our audit is due in fiscal year 2022, the year after this fiscal year. This budget is a step in the right direction to move our program. It's not all the way there, which you received in that report. So it's a first-time fee of stormwater to get the program up and going, to be able to start the studies that are needed to determine the actual capital projects. There are placeholders for those capital projects in our capital improvement plan, funded over the 5-year period. Solid waste is another area where both service costs and services are increasing. The first is just the billing cost. Raleigh is our utility billing, both water, sewer, and solid waste. They have been collecting less per bill than the cost of a stamp. And so they're obviously not getting cost recovery. They did a cost recovery study that's been reported out to the board, and so we anticipate increases, and there was one in our solid waste billing. That was fairly significant. We increased downtown solid waste service. There's a lot more waste, which means higher tipping fees and costs related to the tonnage that goes to the landfill and yard waste facilities that drive those costs. And there was also a request from citizens this year to look at increasing from 2 to 3 large load solid waste call-ins for yard waste. So the budget is responsive to that service increase request. Growth impacts on staffing. We're obviously not in a condition right now in our community that we can maintain staffing levels. We're constantly trying to catch up with service demand. This year we add 2 new positions, a sergeant and a police officer. These are both anticipated to advance the goal of increased community engagement through their assignment and add some diversification of job duty for the department. Public Works adds 1 public work. Those start in January. Public Works adds 1 public works specialist. That position would start July 1st. And there was also a reclassification of a streets program manager and crew leader assigned to streets to help with that program. Finance was a reclassification of the senior accountant position to assistant finance director to assistant succession planning. In planning, the full year funding for the new Planner 2 position approved several months ago. In IT, adds 1 new position starting in January 1st for the systems with the new town hall and liaison with our managed provider service. Overall, for staffing, a couple things I know that they'll be looking at is a 3% in-range adjustment. So it's not a cost of living that moves the whole scale. It's an actual movement in the scale, which helps with compression as new employees are added. There's also potentially more of a meaningful benefit change that doesn't have a large fiscal cost to the town, is providing a second option for our health care benefits. So you kind of have a low and a high plan. High plan is our current plan, but the low plan would make dependent coverage a lot more affordable. And most of our employees have families, and so you want that younger dependent to be in your plan and know that it's a meaningful benefit for your employees. Vehicle lease versus purchase. Over the 5-year capital improvement plan, moving from purchasing vehicles and maintaining them to leasing them and maintaining them offers an estimated savings, fairly conservative savings, at $415,587. If you extend that out to an 8-year lease period, that's approximately $1.1 million. The more vehicles in the program, so as we grow, the more savings versus purchase. So we've hit that point where there's a meaningful enough savings to your taxpayer to switch to a lease program at this point. Just within that 8 to 10 year at 1.1 with our current valuation, that's equivalent to not having to increase the tax rate 1 cent this year and through that 8-year period to cost recover that expense. So you avoided increasing the tax rate 1 penny this year by implementing this. People often don't see what you avoid by being more efficient, but that saves a penny. It does provide for 13 leases of vehicles in 2022 out of our current fleet of 47. 47 is our current fleet number. So once you get past the efficiency, is your program still effective? Can the police department still modify the vehicle? Can Public Works get the type of truck model that they're used to maintaining and doing the work? And the answer is yes. So there's flexibility across different makes and models. You can choose your own maintenance location, and you're able to modify. It allows for a competitive buyer return program at the end. This does not cover heavy or specialty equipment, so front-end loaders are still purchased, vac trucks, knuckle booms, all the specialty equipment, utility vehicles and so forth still have to buy. You're not approving the lease agreement with the budget. You're just appropriating an amount of money for lease of vehicles. The actual decision on whether you lease or buy comes later with the lease agreement after the budget. And in talking with staff, they have completed a vendor analysis and they're finalizing their reports to be ready to present that to the board in June. Looking at budgeted revenues, last year, if someone looked at last year's budget, they'd see a large loan proceed. This year, they see another one. It's not two separate loans. It's the same loan. We didn't borrow the money last year. The actual town hall construction will happen in this fiscal year, so that's the borrowing. Ad valorem taxes still remain our largest recurring revenue. Intergovernmental restricted, the second largest is your sales tax, primarily. Total revenues, $23,317,452, and you kind of see the different numbers not in a pie chart there that from the slide before. Expenditures, capital, largest number again, 59% of the budget. Kind of went through those breakouts earlier. Typo alert. For a balanced budget, your revenues have to match your expenditures, and 23,307 does not equal 23,317. The expense chart is off by that $10,000 amount. That's $10,000 in, that should be more in non-departmental, so 917,000 versus 907. The additional revenue was moved into our health expense costs. When you look at the actual line item budget and ordinance, the numbers are correct. Just this chart is wrong. The one chart I chose to present tonight is the one with the typo on it. My apologies. I obviously don't go through all the line items, but just a couple of the high points that are different from year to year are shown on this screen. It is a municipal election year, so there's an expense in the governing body line there. The town's looking at partnering with Wake Tech, Wake County Human Services, and other municipalities for an Eastern Wake Entrepreneur Program, which would include the development of a Wendell site to help minority and women-owned businesses receive resources for starting. Planning, our map plotter is ancient and beyond service. Police has a couple. One is it's time to replace the tasers, so we're moving to a lease replacement program there. Also, there's a more robust uniform budget to more proactively replace the police uniforms and keep them fresh and looking well. So we're not just providing uniforms and a couple replacements, but getting into some of the officers have been here a while and need to replace out uniforms. Public Works has the vehicle lease. Also, the modular building lease is added in. So you'll see that increase in that line. The streets program is new this year, so that's a new department. Stormwater broken off on its own this year. And the idea is to help with finance and departments with cost accounting. So as time goes, we may shift more of the elements of those programs into those department budgets. It also helps if the public are paying specific fees associated with programs so they can see the value of their investment. Parks and Recreation, that was our biggest hit department during COVID, with the lack of being able to have the human interaction in special events. And so the numbers here are much like last year, optimistic that most of the year we'll be able to be back at a fairly normal clip, but are still fairly conservative compared to past, but we'll monitor that closely, of course, based on health conditions. And with special appropriations being the same 3 as in the past, but they're always interested to know that they are receiving your support. All right, that's a whole lot of small letters and numbers for the 5-year capital plan. For the public's benefit, our definition of a capital expense is any kind of equipment, land, facility, vehicle, plan, or other asset in excess of $10,000 or extends the life of one of those assets. Year 1 is appropriated in the capital budget. It's also in the general fund line items. Years 2 through 5 are planning purposes only and subject to change. Each project, whether it be in year 1 or year 5, has a description and how it's connected to different revenues in your strategic plan, or other adopted plans in the budget, and how they may impact the operating budget. Each project includes, or it has that description. The 5-year total, $35,962,070. As you can see, approximately $14 million of that's in year 1. So it's basically funding between 30 and 40% of the full 5-year capital plan in year 1. A lot of that being town hall. All right, that got shifted around with formatting. Wendell Boulevard Pedestrian Project, that's connecting a sidewalk from Wendell Elementary to basically the Food Lion Plaza. The design finishes this year and construction starts. That's likely to be a multi-fiscal year construction due to also signalizing Wendell Falls Parkway and Wendell Boulevard intersection and rearranging a couple intersections to be safer for pedestrians. It has the design for our first greenway on the Main Street extension, the full construction for neighborhood improvement program in Zone 1 west of downtown, around Academy Street and then closer to downtown. Neighborhood improvement Zone 2 is design and potentially a pedestrian crossing on Wendell Boulevard, between Main Street and Pine Street area to signalize a crosswalk and make sure it's put in an appropriate safe condition to help neighborhoods north of downtown reach downtown safer. There's in year 2, there's additional funds that help with connectivity of sidewalks from this area to the elementary school and resurfacing an unpaved road. So there's some additional improvements. This project extends over more than 1 year. Landing View Drive is a long discussed second park entrance that's coordinated with the Town Hall project. The streets resurfacing program we've talked about, the $573,000 are for the major road repairs. There's an additional little less than $200,000 in minor repairs on a number of streets as well. Vehicles, you have the lease program. We are providing planning for replacement of more computers. We're focusing primarily on police department this year and have applied through the Government Crime Commission grant for assistance in that of a little over $25,000. But the total cost with new positions and additional equipment is $40,000. Building and grounds, Town Hall project is the largest there, obviously. Excited about the second bullet. It's the design for the Hollybrook Road Neighborhood Park. Also demolition of an existing building on site with the help of Wendell Fire. And the $1.8 million to construct the park is in year 2 of the capital improvement plan. So we'll go right into that after design. Acquiring land for a future police station. HVAC unit replacements at the current police station and community center due to failing HVAC systems, and replacing the senior center roof this year. We'll be monitoring the senior center HVAC unit. If it starts failing, we'll do that one this year as well. Otherwise, it's in year 2 of our budget. Finishing the comprehensive land use plan and also doing the anticipated small area plan around the I-87 interchange and Wake Tech campus area. So that's your 14 projects in year 1, totaling the nearly $14 million. That's a lot of work for a town this size in 1 year. All right. So that raises the question, does the borrowing impact your debt schedule? Can you afford it? Are you within the legal margin? There is a state law that provides how you calculate that. That's in the gray area box. You take your estimated assessed value for the current year. So we received that from the tax appraiser's office. The debt limit is 8% of assessed value. So that gives you, and you have to subtract out your net debt. So that leaves us a legal debt margin of $73,422,196. So it is my thought that the town has plenty of debt capacity should something happen that you needed to do an additional borrowing. As you know, you authorized and we did pay off 2 debts early this year also, which reduced our debt service. And I thought there was one more slide, but I can tell you the fund balance estimate put the fund balance at a little over 82% of your operating. The board's policy is 40%. The state requirement is 8%. So your fund balance remains healthy with this expenditure next year. And I'd be happy to answer any questions before you open up the public hearing.
Any questions?
Mark, just for my clarity, I know we mentioned the leasing stuff, and I love the savings, especially over time. Is this going to apply to vehicles in all areas, or I know you spoke kind of specifically to certain areas, but is this across all of town vehicles?
The entire town fleet.
Okay.
Yeah.
With the exception, I'm sure, of vehicles that we already own and we're using.
Well, yeah. So we'll be trading in or reselling the vehicles that we have as we get there. So 13 vehicles come in this time, and so the vehicles that we're replacing out will be surplus. So that as we lease up, we're replacing out from and getting out of ownership. We still have to maintain either way. So that cost is static. Though the lease program that we've been talking with, Enterprise, does reimburse the town for certain basic maintenance. So there's an additional savings based on those maintenance reimbursements per vehicle. That's not calculated with that number.
Any other questions from the board?
I've got one, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Well, actually, I guess it's 2 questions. One, what I'd call special appropriations to the nonprofit entities, does that $500 reflect the in-kind donation? Or does anything in this budget reflect an in-kind donation, or is it?
No, there's no in-kind donation reflected, only cash transferred from the town to an outside entity. For that 500 for the Historical Society, there's a significant in-kind investment made through all of our departments at 4th of July event. So there's a significant investment there.
Second, and don't want to be confused for not supporting this, because I believe 3 or 4 years ago, I said that Interact needed to be included, maybe when it wasn't. Would love town staff to reach out to that agency and ask them how they resolved the issues that they had earlier in the year. When we started the budget process, I highlighted that I'd be looking for clarity on some internal disputes and internal volatility that they had. I certainly think there's another way that we as a board can show our support of similar agencies, but have a concern about that particular agency, and I understand still it's a small dollar amount, but if staff could have a conversation with them to better understand their commitment to continue providing services and how they're working through that, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? All right, we'll open the public hearing. And we have no one signed up to speak at the public hearing. So we'll close the public hearing. Are there any other questions or comments from the board?
All right. One more, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Mark, nothing in this budget contemplates the funding for the American Rescue Plan. Is that
Correct. The guidance from the excuse me, Federal Treasury Department, initial draft guidance was just released today, and so I have not had the opportunity to review the 153 pages of that and determine what's eligible or not. So pursuant to our, and thank you for reminding me of that, nothing in the budget reflects the American Rescue Plan Act funds anticipated to be received by the town. Any plan developed around that would be done with input from the board and added or not added to the next year's budget after the budget's adopted as an amendment.
Thank you, sir. I look forward to, I guess a comment on the budget. Really appreciate the way this was done. Really appreciate the fact that it starts with no increase in property tax. And we'll say that in contemplating that thought, I can't proffer a way that any fees would be reduced if we were to slow or speed up to try to account for that. But I appreciate the fact that this budget contemplates only what we currently have to work with, and I believe that will provide this board an opportunity in the coming year to make a sizable investment into some of the priorities that are here, and look forward to maybe accelerating that capital improvement plan, because I know you want to do more things in 1 year.
Yeah, 14 projects this year. That's a lot. I can't tell you, I know I said it in the budget retreat that we had, what it means to me to have these conversations that we have and make plans and see them coming to fruition in this document. So thank you all for that. We really appreciate it. The finance staff is all here. We really appreciate that. And we're in a good place in Wendell, I think. We're doing really well. We're, always say we're killing it. So we're killing it in Wendell. So we're doing really well. Thank y'all for that.
I should remind that since it is a virtual meeting, we will take public comment.
Yes.
On official public comment for the record for the next 24 hours after the public hearing. Mm-hmm. But anytime a citizen has any question about the budget or finances of the town, I would welcome them reach out to either myself or the finance department, and we'd be glad to talk through it. We are responsive to what the board and citizens think and want, and we're trying to match limited resources to meet those needs.
And you have had numerous conversations, because people come back and tell me, and I'm sure the others as well. So, and I appreciate that. I know folks want to talk to y'all about it and debate it and have conversations about what we're doing and where we're going and things like that. So thank you for that as well. All right, so we'll be voting on this at the next meeting, and like the manager said, public comment can be received for 24 hours. You can email that to the Town of Wendell clerk. Is it to Megan Howard? How do you want that, any comment to be received? To Megan, okay, I didn't
Yeah.
be certain.
M. Howard at townofwendell.com.
townofwendell.com, and she will make sure that we see it. And you have 24 hours from right now, so get busy. All right, item 5B is a public hearing on the zoning text amendment to comply with Chapter 160D of the North Carolina General Statutes. Good evening, Mr. Jones. We're chipping our way through this 160D.
We are. This is batch 4,
Okay.
and we are very close to the end. So I predict that we probably have no more than 3 more batches to come before the board. So good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the board. Specific action requested tonight is to hold a public hearing on the proposed text amendment. As always, I'd like to kind of provide a brief summary of what 160D is. So Chapter 160D is essentially a new chapter that consolidates current city and county enabling legislation specifically for development regulations. In addition, it provides a more logical organization of these regulations. It does not make major policy changes or shifts. However, it does provide for clarifying amendments and consensus reforms. And again, this is the 4th batch of text amendments related to 160D. So there are essentially two text amendments or umbrellas of the text amendments that we'll be referring to today. The bona fide farm and then also housing code enforcement. So 160D notes that we must exempt farm use on bona fide farms in the ETJ from city zoning. To the same extent, it would be exempt from county zoning. Also, we must follow standardized processes for housing code enforcement to determine an owner's abandonment of intent to repair and need for demolition. So this one was a little tricky because we got into it and it created this ripple effect. You know, we were supposed to determine, the owner's abandonment of intent to repair and demolition. So as we got into the minimum housing code, it kind of led us down this rabbit hole where we had to make a bunch of different changes, and you'll see some of those changes. Related to the bona fide farm, currently Section 1.5 of the UDO relates to bona fide farms, and in Chapter 19 we have a definition of bona fide farm. So we added some language that specifically spoke to property that ceases to be used for a bona fide farm will be subject to regulations. So that just means if you're no longer a bona fide farm, you're going to have to comply with city and county zoning. Regardless, you are not exempt from floodplain regulations. Bona fide farms are not exempt from floodplain regulations. And then we added some language around agritourism. Accessory structures used are exempt from building code and zoning. So if you have an accessory structure on a bona fide farm that is tied to agritourism, it is exempt from the North Carolina Building Code and our zoning code. So we had to add a definition for agritourism. And then we also updated the definition for bona fide farm to include residences must be constructed to the residential building code. Everything else doesn't need to be. However, a house does. Now on to the housing code enforcement. So Chapter 34 of the Code of Ordinances, not the UDO, but our Code of Ordinances, which deals with the minimum housing code. So there were some definitions that we had to modify. 2 of those definitions were deteriorated and dilapidated. The biggest change here is that prior to the 160D change, the definition of deteriorated and dilapidated were related to 40% of the value of the home. So after 160D, that has increased to 50% of the value of the home. Really, that's in favor of the property owner, is what's happened. The definition of public officer and parties of interest were added. The word inspector was removed because now we have those public officers in its place. The definition of owner was revised as well in 160D. Really speaks to a fee simple type of ownership. Changed all references to minimum housing code inspector to public officer. In the section of periodic inspections, we had to add reasonable cause for inspection, and some of the reasonable causes for an inspection could be a complaint from a tenant or a code enforcement officer passing by and visibly sees a violation, or there could be a history of violations from that property owner. Also, we had to add as part of a targeted effort to respond to blighted conditions, which generally speaks to municipalities that may have a strategy of targeting blighted geographic areas for code enforcement. So there was a section related to investigation, notice, and hearing. This one's interesting. Here are reasons to order an owner to vacate a deteriorated home. If there's a health and safety risk, for example, asbestos or lead removal. Failure to comply section, we added demolition because that was not there, and we also added abandonment of intent to repair because that was not there as well. Something of note to pay attention to here is the dwelling must be vacated and closed for a period of 12 months before the abandonment of intent to repair has come into place. And after a 12-month period, the Board of Commissioners must give a property owner 90 days to repair or demolish a structure. Then an ordinance must be recorded with the Register of Deeds. So, and then we added language to the section with methods of servicing complaints and orders. If a property owner refuses to be served, then a mail notice is sent, and if it's not returned within 10 days, it's noted that that service has been sufficient. So we've done our due diligence, essentially. If snail mail is used, we also must post the property. So we have to put a sign out in front of the property. And then finally, again, everywhere it says minimum housing inspector, we changed that to public officer. At their April 19th, 2021 meeting, the Planning Board voted unanimously to recommend approval and request for the requested text amendment. The statement of plan consistency, the requested zoning text is consistent with the comprehensive plan and supports key principle number 9, make development decisions predictable, fair, and cost-effective. And we are only holding the public hearing tonight, but we will recommend approval. Happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
All right, we'll open the public hearing. Are there any questions from the board or comments? I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What was the reason for changing from code enforcement officer to public or whatever that?
Semantics.
I feel like we went from more specific to less, and I thought
Well,
we usually try to go the other way, and I just didn't know what that was about.
I think it was called minimum housing inspector, and we changed that to public officer. So actually, it's probably a little more flexible because I think there could be several
Maybe they can
people.
wear more than one hat.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay. All right, any questions or comments from the board?
We got one, Madam Mayor.
Uh-huh.
Nikki, it's going to be in periodic inspections, definitions, D. Was that if a property identified by the town of Wendell to be in the top 10%? And from my reading of it, that's an addition on our behalf. Just
Say
one-
that again, Mr. Joyner.
So it's right before you get to, let me see if I can see what page it is here. It's item D under the periodic inspection section.
Okay.
Can you explain? That all looks like an addition to me.
There are just blocks of yellow, if I can remember correctly.
Yeah,
Yes.
so there seems to be the ability to identify it as a top 10% of crime, disorder problems. That seems like a relatively, and I may be incorrect, but a relatively targeted section, and I guess I was just trying to understand better if this is all new language being added to our code, what and why?
This is all new language being added to our code, and that is specifically pulled from the 160D language.
I've said it at least twice in this process. The General Assembly did a bad job of writing language here, specifically given that for the past year, the better part of half of that language couldn't be enforced. But since we don't have much else to be able to say about it, I'll just restate, the General Assembly has forced us to adopt these exact words in this manner to comply with the law. So that's what we're doing. So if you don't hear us nitpicking, because I would nitpick a lot of that and a couple above it, but since that's not an option, just nail all complaints to 16 West Jones Street, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27601.
Any other comments or questions? All right, we'll close the public hearing and take this on for a vote at our next meeting. Let's move into section 6, administrative items. Item 6A is the review of a mural for 19 North Main Street. Mr. Coates.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
The next item is a mural located at 19 North Main Street. Give me just one moment here. Sorry about that. So the request is for you all to take action on the mural located at 19 North Main Street in downtown Wendell. At the May 3rd, 2021 meeting of the Appearance Commission, they reviewed the mural and unanimously recommended to the Board of Commissioners approval. The mural is located on the second floor of 19 North Main Street and is located on an outdoor wall that's visible from Cypress Street and Tobacco Alley. The mural is only accessible from inside the building. The business owner commissioned the mural and was not aware that the approval was needed from the town. The mural has been completed. They did not request any funding from the town at all. The mural is titled Lua. Probably didn't do the word justice pronouncing it correctly, but it's an African name that means beautiful. UDO requires that any mural go before the Appearance Commission Board of Commissioners. The requirements, it's not on the front facade, so we don't have to worry about item 1. It's not on a residential building. It does not extend more than 6 inches from the plane of the wall, and it's not advertising any business. The only reason this has to come before you is because murals do have to come before council. So I will show you this artwork, and then I'm going to attempt to play a short, like 30-second video of it being painted. So the image on the left is the sketch that the artist did, and then the image on the right is actually the completed mural. So you can see they stuck pretty much to that sketch and did the work over a weekend. But it's a large mural, colorful, and it's on the second floor. If you get a chance, go up there and check that out. Give me one moment. I'm going to play a video of the mural getting painted for you real quick. You can see by this, the artist did it over a short time, climbed up and down, painted, did a really good job. So I will not play the whole video for you, but it adds to our mural collection, and so our staff recommendation is to approve the mural. I can field any questions that you may have.
Any questions from the board?
I've got one, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
So, in reading the packet, it was the first time I've ever had to consider behind, like, the mural's there, I certainly think this mural looks absolutely fine. I appreciate the planning board, or the appearance commission's recommendation. But it brought to mind a question. What would happen, and I'm not proposing that this board say no, but let's say the next property owner comes in, at this property or another property that we've approved, and says, hey, look, I don't like the mural, and I'm not planning on putting another mural up, but I just like to take the mural down. I've never contemplated that and just thought I'd ask you.
Yes, so we've started introduction with the Appearance Commission on a public art plan. It's great that we have a lot of murals, but they're not protected. And so if any of our businesses that have a mural on their, any wall decides to close, sells to another business, they could paint over them. And so part of a public art plan is to actually have protections on the art that you want to keep, and have maybe a lease, or have, it's kind of like it with historic structures. You could have protection on them for like 20 years, 50 years. You can do different things. And also, I think part of the public art plan that we're starting with initial survey to get the public's feedback on stuff. But we also want to talk about where art goes, what kind of art, because art is way more than just murals. And so we want to have that discussion with the community appearance commission and the community overall, because do we want statues? Do we want them in town parks? Do we want them on bridges? There's a lot of things that we could do as a community for art. And so we're just starting to get into that. But there could be some of these murals that people are very attached to that they're not protected. So that does have some concern for staff.
I look forward to being a part of that process, and with that, Madam Mayor, make a motion to approve item 7A.
So we have a motion to approve the mural on 19 North Main Street. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, Commissioner Joyner?
Aye.
Commissioner Lutz?
Aye.
Commissioner Tornaski?
Aye.
Commissioner Deloach?
Aye.
And Commissioner Boyette?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously.
Thank you.
All right. Item 7, other business. Item 7A is an update by board committees, by town board members that serve on board committees. First, we'll hear from Commissioner Joyner from the Wendell Volunteer Fire Department.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Wendell Fire Department Board of Directors met this past Thursday. Chief has reported back that the county budget process continues to move forward, although I will say for the record, without the battalion chiefs, that I look forward to the county funding next year. The fire department's going through a process similar to our 160D changes, updating all of their policies and procedures. So the board worked through a series of updates recommended by the chief, and we can continue to move forward on that. And I believe that's all for the fire department, Madam Mayor.
All right. And Commissioner Deloach, Triangle J Council of Governments.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We met TJ Cog, Triangle J Board of Delegates, Wednesday the 28th. We did that meeting virtually. It was a presentation of the American Rescue Plan, which we touched on briefly earlier. Federal funding for local municipalities, how that money will impact our region. Obviously, we've been impacted by COVID, so that is federal funding coming to local governments. They gave a breakdown of the timeline to the state. They gave a breakdown to the municipalities, and again, you heard tonight that we just apparently received that information today. So there was in a budget presentation from the COG. It is budget season for a lot of folks, so we went through the budget for TJ COG. And we also had what's called a Sandbox challenge presentation of the finalists for that. It basically amounts to a sort of a spitball campaign for local projects, impact programs that various folks proposed. So anyway, it was down to 3 finalists, and the TJ COG voted to see which one would have the greatest impact on the region and would align well with the existing work that we do. Then we finished up with what is called Around the Region, gives an opportunity for each of us to sort of present what's going on in our local municipality. They do that in alphabetical order, which is always fun. I get to wait until the very end. Zebulon was actually not present, so I got to go last, and we gave a nice long laundry list of things that we're able to do here locally. You heard a lot of those tonight with the budget, so lots of and conversations rather than either or. So I was happy to present that, and sort of a funny ending to it. Gave my spiel, which was supposed to be about 30 seconds. I was a little long-winded, shocker to everyone, I'm sure. But I ended it with, all is well in Wendell. And everybody kind of smiled and nodded, and I realized that maybe I was onto a little something there. But anyway, coming soon to a T-shirt near you. That is all.
Thank you. Commissioners' reports, we'll start with Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple of things to highlight. I noted today that to date, about 33% of Wake County is now double vaccinated or fully vaccinated. So we are approaching, but not there yet. We're making progress. Also, just for those of you who may have enjoyed Excel spreadsheets as much as I have during this process to date, 22.9% of Wendell residents have tested positive at some point in the last year for COVID. So anyone looking for the data, it's certainly out there. With that said, COVID vaccines are available at the community center this week, May 12th through 15th. Also, in a non-COVID related portion of the update, wanted to congratulate Bearded Bee, who opened during a pandemic. This was Bearded Bee has been an awesome example of how folks can come together with a big idea that doesn't seem reachable straight out the gate. And Wendell certainly means business. Bearded Bee certainly means business. And they won the WRL Battle of the Brews, competing against lots of breweries that had the ability to spend years building up a customer base, and certainly cool to see that. Congratulations to Derek and Carrie and everyone over there on their team. The manager mentioned tonight the budget is on the front page of the website. You've got the budget there. Go take a look at it. If you want to submit a public comment, you got 24 hours to submit that public comment. If you want to submit a otherwise comment, all of our cell phone numbers and email addresses are online. Feel free to do that. The application deadline for citizen boards is next week, May 21st. So if you are interested enough, we would certainly appreciate you applying. And then this one is a fun one, Madam Mayor. It's not one that I've gotten to do more than once in my time on the board. My wife and I found out this weekend that not only were we expecting number 2, but we're expecting baby girl number 2. And in classic Joyner fashion, she's going to be due, if not on Election Day, just before Election Day. So very excited that Wendell is growing, and this is one of the very excited about looking at the budget tonight and thinking about long term. I certainly appreciated, although my colleagues likely didn't when I first came on this board, having no children and no real responsibilities, the amount of enthusiasm I sometimes brought to budget debates and the lack of regard for time. I now understand Dr. Lutz's perspective in the first year, and certainly excited about baby girl number 2 on the way. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Congratulations, but you are completely outnumbered. I mean, you're like in a hole outnumbered.
Even the dog.
Yeah. But I was outnumbered too, so you'll be all right. But yeah, it's rough for a while. Commissioner Lutz.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. Just wanted to kind of give my thanks to all the town staff. I think we did a lot of praising tonight, but I think for good reason with the police department and public works, and then just town staff, and they're putting together the budget. Just, you know, kudos. Things are doing so well here in town, and it's nice to see as the weather warms up and people are starting to kind of get out, and farmers market has been busy, and so I encourage you to, you know, do so safely, do so responsibly, but please to get out and continue to support those in town. Yeah, good luck, Jason. That's all I had. Thank you.
Commissioner Tornaski.
Good evening, Mayor. I'd like to say thanks for the town of Wendell and all the hard work they do, and the police of Wendell, and also happy Mother's Day to all the mothers this week. And I'd like to make one other comment. Thank you for the citizen that came out and brought to our attention that we have, you know, a large number of alcoholic establishments serving, and just to keep an eye, you know, that we don't become like Bourbon Street or something like that downtown Wendell. But he brought to our attention that we need to keep an eye on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Deloach.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I continue to receive comments from former commissioners, former mayors, joking halfway about how our job is easier now because of the tax base increase, you know, the amount of dollars that we have to work with. But, you know, again, the praise goes to town staff. The beauty of you know, making that look easy is the hard work that they do. So we do joke about it, but they do a great job. And certainly, again, having the and conversations when it comes to capital improvements rather than, you know, the either or conversations is a big thing. So thank you for that. Rotary tomorrow at noon. Wendell Rotary, we're planning on having DOT present. They're going to discuss the 540 expansion plan. So that is open to anyone. We will do that again virtually. I will have a link for that. So if you're interested in hearing more about the 540 expansion plan, shoot me an email, send me a text, and I'll get that link to you. Senior Center had a meeting this past week. They do have a plan in place to reopen on a limited basis here in the next couple of weeks. Spent some time with them last Monday doing the Monday message, and they are extremely excited about the proposition of opening, and they're appreciative. Obviously, you heard tonight again of the town's input, HVAC system, roof, etc. So they're excited for that. And Commissioner Joyner touched on this, but Wednesday to Saturday, Wendell Community Center, the vaccine event, if you're interested in that, if you're still seeking vaccine, it is actually a schedule ahead event as well as a walk-up event. So no appointment is necessary. Electronic sign posted on Wendell Boulevard, but Wednesday to Saturday, if that is something that interests you. And that is all I have.
Thank you. And Commissioner Boyette.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say thank you to Public Works and Police. It's nice to see them getting the recognition they deserve in these 2 weeks. I'd like to thank staff for working so hard on the budget. I know it's a little bit more complicated budget than we normally have with all the capital projects, but it's excellently put together. I'm very happy to see that we didn't have to raise taxes to do any of it. And also just wanted to congratulate Commissioner Joyner on his growing family. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple reminders. I think some of them have already been mentioned. The farmers market on Saturdays, May through October. One caveat I want to just remind you of is that you don't have to come every single time. You can come one time, you can come every other week, every third week, the first, the last, all of them, whatever you would like. We just are anxious to have you participate and be part of our market. So you can look at the town's website and get more information about that. I encourage you to come. It's been a great group the 2 Saturdays so far. Also, applications for the citizen advisory boards need to be here by Friday, May 21st to be considered. Those appointments will be made in June. So, please participate. There's a lot of good things, as you saw from the budget tonight. There's a lot of exciting things happening in Wendell. And, some of you may want to be part of that, and we welcome you to do that. The town is hosting a virtual Spring into the Arts this year with some virtual activities, concerts, mural painting video of the town's latest mural that we saw a little portion of tonight, and some virtual art lessons. Stay tuned to the town's social media pages on May 21st and participate in the event. Hopefully, we're going to get very soon to a point where we can get back face-to-face with some of these things. I'm about sick of the virtual stuff, but I think it's necessary. I'm attending a webinar tomorrow on the American Rescue funding that we've all been discussing tonight, and how I'm sure that there's numerous people at the League of Municipalities where they receive that information just today, working through those many, many, many pages to get prepared for that webinar for us tomorrow. So I will know more about that after that tomorrow. I wanted to real quickly, I've noticed that a lot of people from Wendell have been graduating from college the last week and weekends, and probably this coming up weekend. I think that school in Chapel Hill is going to graduate this weekend. And so I say that teasingly. My niece is graduating from there this weekend. Anyhow, I'm really proud of all the graduates this year, particularly. Every year I always am, but this has been very challenging, and I know we're all tired of talking about all the challenges, but 3 semesters in college where you've had to do it virtually or just whatever, sometimes go, sometimes not, sometimes you're at home, sometimes you're in your dorm, it's very challenging. And so I commend all of you. They've shown tremendous tenacity that all of us may not have, and I expect that it's going to take them a long way in life, and good luck to you in your job search or your next educational challenges or whatever path that graduating from college takes you on. I'm sure you'll have tremendous success at that. And one other thing, Commissioner Deloach said something about previous mayors and commissioners had said that our job isn't hard. I would love for them to all give me a call, 919-365-4794, and we'll talk about that, because my goodness, it's very hard. It's always hard. There's always challenges. My goal at the end of every day and every week and every month is to try to let the good and exciting things outweigh the challenges and the hurdles and the unkind things that are said on Facebook. So sometimes that's easy and sometimes it's not. So it's always hard for every group, and we appreciate their service, and I appreciate the service of these gentlemen that are here with me now. So it's always hard. I have to defend y'all. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.